If you are new here, my name is Ashley with Ashley's Reads on Twitter or of Fiction and Fantasy on Instagram, and Jack is eating my props. Okay. No. This month I accidentally joined 4 readathons, so that's fun. I regret my life choices. To be completely transparent with you guys, I've had a really terrible day, but I'm trying to be productive by filming this. So if you've seen my past videos and I seem just like a little angrier than usual, or maybe like a little less excitable, please know it has nothing to do with the readathons and everything to do with other life circumstances. But things are going to get better. I am doing really well, I think, with my April readathons, and I am very, very excited to get to these May books as well. So we're gonna make a great day out of it. No Ivies. I have made the terrible life choice to take part in 4 readathons in May. Is this a terrible decision? Possibly, but I did actually manage. My book notebook is covered in Labrador hair because they're shedding because it's 90 degrees outside. Anyways, I did manage to get 13 books on this readathon, which is less books than I had in one readathon last month. So this really is not bad. I think that it's manageable for the fact that I'll probably read 5 of these books, which I have to read at least 6 because they're arcs. So we're just gonna roll with it, and whatever I don't get to in May will obviously move towards the next readathon. My birthday is in June, so sometimes I do become a mood reader for 1 month because I just want to read whatever I feel like reading for my birthday month, and it's my champagne year. So I might skip June. We'll see. I'm also really excited because I'm filming this in April, and you guys know that I am incredibly behind on all my videos. So props to me for being a semi-normal adult today. I struggled with figuring out the structure of this video because the books do overlap. So if I've already described a book a lot, then I just will casually mention it. The other issue is that most of these books are arcs. So those are the ones that I will be reading for the first half of the month, and those ones are all ebooks this month. So this won't be the most aesthetically pleasing TBR video. Last month was a lot better for that. And what else? The ones that I will be getting to in the second half of the month, I will try and get physical copies from the library, but because I won't be getting to them for at least 2 more weeks, I figured it would kind of be a waste of time to check them out now because I'll renew them twice anyway when I end up reading them in June still. So I have 1 book on this that is a physical book. Let's get into it. I will briefly tell you the names of all of the readathons and we will go from there. Okay, that's better. I'm just getting lower every clip, just roll with it. So the first readathon that I am going to be taking part in is May the Force Be With You Readathon, which is hosted by Break Even Books on Twitter. This one is a Star Wars themed readathon, and I will be taking part in this with my brother Noah and my friend Amber. Second readathon that I will be taking part in is the Desertathon, a readathon all about desert vibe books, and that is for the entire month of May as well as the other readathon. Oh, it's hosted by Paradise of Pages on Twitter as well. I chose this readathon because my heart was really calling out to me. I love board game readathons. Hold on. This is a little like mascot or icon for the readathon, and I thought it was adorable because it reminds me of Evie, and I am a huge fan of Ivies. So I had to do this readathon. The third readathon that I will be taking part in is the Asian readathon. The Asian readathon is hosted by Read with Cindy. The final readathon is MAYsianathon, which is a week-long Asian-inspired readathon that takes place May 16th through 22nd. And MAYsianathon is hosted by Elle at Chapter L and Stasia at Readers C. So I am very excited to take part in that. I will be reading those books throughout the month, but I'll try and put them towards like starting them during the week-long readathon time. If that makes any sense. We'll see how that goes. I can't generally read a book or more than 1 book in a week, so Yeah, I'm nervous, but I'm excited because both the MAYsianathon and the Asian Readathon have really fun side challenges, so it is going to be an awesome month even if I spectacularly fail to read the books on time. I wrote all 13 books here, but I did not write the readathons. Okay, so the first readathon that I will be taking part in is the Star Wars one. So this one comes with 3 different paths that you can take. I was most interested in the neutral side at first, but none of my books worked for that. I love SWTOR, and my favorite class campaign, that's not the right term that I'm looking for. My favorite class story in SWTOR, Star Wars The Old Republic, was the bounty hunter or the smuggler. So I wanted to do neutral, but instead I will be doing light side just because that was the only one that all of my arcs fit into. The first prompt is Jedi Council, which is to read a sequel. Thankfully, I have one single sequel on this book, TBR list. And for this one, I will be reading A Chorus Rises by Bethany C. Morrow. And I am very excited. This is the sequel to A Song Below Water, I believe, was the first one. And this book follows a character who was a side character in the first book. So I don't know that it's necessarily like a sequel as in like a following of events as much as like focusing on a different character in the same world. So I'm excited to try that because I think that the character was a very interesting one in the first book. She is not a siren. She was a different species, and she had like a seashell necklace. That doesn't help you guys at all. That's all I remember. Yeah, I'm very excited to read it. The cover is one of the most beautiful covers that I have seen this year. I immediately saw it and thought, I am interested in reading this book. And then I realized it was a sequel to a book that I'd already read, so I was even more excited. Yeah, that's where we're at. I have no idea what to expect, but if I were judging a book by a cover, this one would be 5 stars already. The second prompt is Force Spirit. And for this one, it is to read a book with paranormal elements. Noah and I were going to read Noragami Volume 2, which is a manga by, I think it's Adachitoka, but the website I would read that on is still down. So instead, back in like early spring or possibly before spring, I requested an arc of a book by my favorite author, Erin A. Craig. It is her second novel, Small Favors. I try to not know anything going in, so I have tried to like avoid anything besides like the aesthetics and things like that, and some like very small quotes. So I've tried to ignore like some of the excerpts that have been available. So I already pre-ordered this book, and it comes out the end of July. So I'm considering it like a birthday present to myself. I ordered it from the bookstore. I think I ordered it from the bookstore in her hometown so that I could get it signed. And because I ordered it on some sort of bookstore day or Small Business Saturday or something like that, I got this bookmark already for the book that was made by Erin A. Craig. And you can tell it's pretty crinkled. My dog stole it. I was so excited. And then I had not heard back from, is it Delacorte Press, about this book, so I assumed it was too late because everyone had already gotten arcs and had already read and reviewed it, and I accepted my fate of not getting the arc, and I already ordered it like I said. And a couple of weekends ago I went online and they had given it to me. I don't know why. And I screamed so loud that I think my neighbors probably thought that like I fell out of the shower or something, and I just started crying. That's really silly, but I kind of like set myself stepping stone goals of like things I'd like to achieve as like a content creator or booktuber or reviewer. I wanted, well, that's definitely been to get a book by my favorite author, and I didn't think it would happen this year, less than a year into this, so that's incredibly amazing. I couldn't tell, and I also really wanted to get a book by Delacorte Press. They hadn't been rejecting me for books, but they were just letting them time out on NetGalley. They were releasing Small Favors and Cast in Firelight and a bunch of books that just seem really up my alley. So so grateful. I don't know if you guys saw my like 700 mentions of this book on BookTube somehow or what, but I'm so thankful to whoever changed their mind and gave this to me. You guys are awesome. I cannot tell you much about this book except that there are bees. I think definitely bees, unless that's just like the general aesthetic. There's small town vibes and there are paranormal elements, and I kind of have like this secret, what's that movie? The movie where they're all living in the village. Is it called The Village? Where like all the kids grow up and they can only wear yellow or they're scared of the color red. I don't think anyone should ever hire me to like write their book synopsis or their movie tagline. I don't think that's something that's in my career path. Yeah, I'm very, very excited to read that. That may be my most anticipated book this month. The next prompt is healing, which is to read a book in your favorite genre. For this one, I will be reading Shadow of the Fox by Julie Kagawa. And this one, I also know nothing about at all. But it was recommended to me by Stasia, and she recommended Caraval to me, and that was like a 4.5 star read for me. So I trust her at this point. I'm gonna go in blindly. I did buy it because it was on sale. It may still be on sale as an ebook. It was only like 99 cents. So I am excited to get to it, and the cover is stunning. Oh, I definitely am obsessed with red books, so it's right up my alley. But I do know that it is fantasy. I think it's a young adult fantasy, and that, like most booktubers, is my favorite genre currently. So yes, the next prompt is knowledge, or to read a book that has been on your TBR list for a long time. For this, I will be reading A Court of Frost and Starlight. I will be reading this because I want to read it for the first time before I finally get to A Court of Silver Flames. I had a few buddy reads that I had to put off this month because I really wanted to fit in more books by Asian authors. So this, I think, this might be the only book that I have on my TBR list that is not by an Asian author and not an ARC. So I picked this one because if I had to read one book in that category, then it should be the one that the most people will hurt me if I back out of this buddy read. Because Jamie probably will hurt me if I don't read A Court of Silver Flames before my birthday. So yeah, that is, I've talked about this so many times, but it's just a novella. I think about Feyre and Rhys in between A Court of Wings and Ruin and A Court of Silver Flames. The next prompt is cleanse, to read a book with a white cover. So for this one, I will be reading The Ivies by Alexa Donne. And this one...
Sorry, I don't know that one.
Okay. This one I think is like a murder mystery or a thriller at one of those, like, I don't know if it's an Ivy League like university or like one of those like boarding school preparatory high schools, but I think someone dies and there may be like a secret society or some kind of cult, and I think it's kind of like political, like politics at the school kind of deal. The cover's white. I forgot to say thank you to Tortine and NetGalley for A Chorus Rises, and thank you to Crown, it says on Goodreads, I don't know if that's correct, Crown Publishing for the Ivies. The next prompt is Rebel Alliance, which is to read a book featuring a rebellion. This one I did stretch because I don't know any of these books, really. I will be reading Curse of the Specter Queen by Jenny Elder Moke. This one, thank you to Disney Hyperion and NetGalley for a copy of this. It's an Indiana Jones retelling, and I think it's set in either Ireland or Scotland, and so there is possibly like Celtic mythology involved. The main character is a girl. She's like what is Indiana Jones? Like an adventurer or a relic searcher historian tour guide. There's some kind of evil group, and I can't remember if they kidnap her or they want whatever relic she wants, but they want, you know, the usual bad guy stuff like world destruction, world domination kind of thing, I think, and she wants to stop them by rebelling against them. That's probably like a really hardcore stretch. I probably just made up that entire synopsis based off of what I vaguely remember about being forced to watch Indiana Jones movies as a kid. And the final one for my light side TBR is to join the resistance, I think. And that one is to read a book in your least favorite genre. I don't generally enjoy contemporary books as much as fantasy books or historical books. So I picked that one. I guess my least favorite would be like horror or like gore, things like that, but I'm not gonna do that. So this one is We Are Inevitable by Gayle Forman. I did read an excerpt of this when it was on Bookish First. It has to do with a guy who lives with his dad, and they have like a dying independent bookstore, and the dad refuses to see that it's dying, and he wants to keep it, but they're like completely in debt, and he doesn't know what to do, and the son doesn't really want to own this dying bookstore for the rest of his days. Like, that's not really his dream, but he doesn't really have a choice right now. So it's kind of like, do you follow family obligation or follow your own dreams? And there's a girl, but we never met her in the excerpt, so that's all I know. I wasn't incredibly interested in the excerpt, but I did love in high school Gayle Forman's books. What was it, like Just One Day, and then did she also write like Where She Went? I think I read both of those series and gave them 5 stars for all of them. Although I will say, like, in high school I gave a lot of things 5 stars that probably shouldn't have been. Thank you to Edelweiss and to Penguin Teen for that. I am excited to get to it, and I hope that I enjoy it as much as high school me enjoyed Gayle Forman's other books. We'll jump into the Desertathon. You're supposed to use a D6, but they ended up doing a rule change that you could use anything. This is obviously the wrong one because this is a D4, but I wanted to use my pretty pink dice. So I did a D12. That's what the host recommended for me based on like what I wanted. So my first roll, this one I actually have in my notebook. Okay, my first roll I got 11, and I landed on to read a book that is over 300 pages. So for that one I will be reading Curse of the Specter Queen again. And then I got my second roll, I got to 27, which is a book with an animal on the cover or in the title. So I will be reading Shadow of the Fox. For roll 3, I got a recent purchase or a loaned book. For this one, I did We Are Inevitable by Gayle Forman. I just recently got that as an ARC from Edelweiss. Then in roll 4, I got Stunning Cover. So for this one, I will be doing Small Favors, no explanation needed. For roll 4, I got Wild Card, so I will be reading the Ivies because that's the one I have to prioritize the most. For roll 6, it is to read a book that is Arabian inspired. So for this one, I will be reading The Wrath and the Dawn by Renée, Ahdieh. This one I know almost nothing about. The host suggested it. They said it is their favorite book. So I apparently had it on my TBR already, and I think it is a retelling of a story called 1001 Arabian Nights, I think. I hope I like it. It is a very large book though, so I am nervous that I'll put that one off. The next roll I got to read a sequel, so again I will be reading A Chorus Rises because I think that's the only sequel. I guess A Court of Frost and Starlight is one. For the final roll, one of the main roles of the readathon is to read a desert vibed book. So for this one I put Muse of Nightmares by Laini Taylor. This is the sequel, oh god, there's another one. Okay. This is the sequel to Strange the Dreamer, which is about a character named Laszlo Strange. He has dreams of this city called Weep, and it turns out that the city that no one else can remember was completely erased, like from history, from everyone's memories, and he seems to be the only one who has any sort of trace of memory for it. And so in that book, it is them on a journey to see whether weep is real and if they can get to it, what remains there, and so on. That's about all I can say without spoiling it. Apparently, the sequel starts out with different characters that are related to weep as well. So I'm not sure if it's set in weep at a different time or if these characters are going to weep. I'm not really sure. I don't know anything. I think I listened to like the first 5 minutes a couple months ago when the Toy Story Readathon, it was my team's book, and that's all I got through, and I returned it to the library. I'm excited to eventually get to it. It's a huge book, and it took me a long time to get through Muse of Nightmares, so that is it for the Desertathon. I didn't put down any of the side challenges for either the Asian Readathon or MAYsianathon, so I will include those in the wrap up with like what I watched or cooked or whatever the challenges are this year. So for the Asian Readathon, the first one is to read a book by an Asian author. So for this one, I will be reading Avatar, The Last Airbender, The Promise, Part 3. That's by Jean Luen Yang. That is the first story after the series ends, to my knowledge. So I'm like halfway through Part 2 right now, and I should be able to read that one next month. Normally I take a break in a series, but these are really short. Like I just started the other one a couple days ago, and I'm already halfway done. The next prompt is to read a book with an Asian main character. I will be reading The Wrath and the Dawn because the main character is, I want to say this was set in Saudi Arabia. Is that true? Hopefully. I will remove it if I'm wrong. For the third prompt, it is to read a book that the setting is set outside of the US, or it's not a US-centric book. So for this one, I will be reading Spark to Shadow by Atima Kim. This one is the book that I vaguely mentioned in the beginning, the book tour that I am taking part in with TBR and Beyond is for this book. So I applied maybe a month ago because the book was really interesting, and I can't remember anything now. I believe that it is inspired, the setting is inspired by Thailand, and I think this is the one on my TBR list where dragons are involved. I don't think it's like she can shapeshift into it. I can't remember it all. So I'll tell you about it in the wrap up. Because it's my blog post and Instagram post have to go up June 6th, so I'm guaranteed to read this book. And then the next prompt is to read a book in my favorite genre. So for this one, I will be reading Where Dreams Descend by Janella Angelis. This one is inspired by like Phantom of the Opera, Caraval kind of vibes. There was another one, but I can't remember what the other one was. So it's seems very exciting. I loved Caraval. I'm not the biggest Phantom of the Opera fan, but this book sounded amazing. Janella Angelis is a complete sweetheart, and it is also, I think, Book of the Month pick with a book club that I am in called Shelf This Book Club. I only look unenthusiastic because I don't want to say I'm in the book. I'm a member of the book club, but I've yet to read any of the books, so I'm like the worst member in the book club. Yeah. But I'll get there eventually, and this is the one for the month. So I figured why not put it in there if it fits. And then finally for this one, the last one is to read a nonfiction book by an Asian author. And so for this one, I picked The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up, The Japanese Art of Decluttering and Organizing by Marie Kondo. I've seen a couple episodes of her show, and she completely helped me get through my hoarding problem with my clothes when I had graduated university and had moved into a smaller place. So that was really incredibly helpful, and I've been meaning to get the book just to see like what other lessons and things there are. So I'm excited to read that, and I've been meaning to forever. So that is it for the Asian Readathon. And finally, on to the fourth readathon, the week-long readathon. There are only 4 prompts. And so the first one is Asian representation. So I will be reading my Avatar: The Last Airbender book. According to Wikipedia, Aang is based on the Tibetan monks, and Google says that Zuko is Chinese, or at least half Chinese, because I can't remember with the spoiler from part 1 of this book. And Aang and Zuko are like the main characters of this volume, because the promise is made between the two of them. The second prompt is to read a book by an Asian author, and so for that one I will be reading The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up by Marie Kondo. And the third prompt is to read a book set in an Asian country. So for this one, again, I picked Spark to Shadow, because again, Spark to Shadow, to my knowledge, is based on Thailand. The final prompt of all the readathons is to read a book that was recommended, that is a rec from an Asian friend. And for this one of the hosts, Stasia, recommended to me Shadow of the Fox, because I asked her for a book that matched all 4 prompts. So that way, if I could only read one book during the week of this readathon to meet all the prompts, I would have one. And to my knowledge, the books that I picked for this, all 4 readathons, match the prompts. If I have horrifically ruined them by not knowing the setting at all like I thought, or the plot or synopsis, feel free to let me know and I can try to fix it. I am really excited to take part in all of these readathons and the side challenges. If you want to see like my progress throughout the month and not just my wrap up that I post 7 months later, then feel free to follow me on Ashley's Reads at Twitter. I post like the 10% increments and a quick like sentence or quote about the book that I'm currently at and like what 5 books I'm currently reading. I would like to eventually get to less than 5 books that I'm currently reading all at once, but it has been working out pretty well, so we'll see. That is pretty much all that I have for you today. This video is going to be incredibly long. I've had to film like 17 clips, so that'll be really fun to edit. Let me know if you're taking part in any of these readathons, and I would love to see your TBR list. If you are taking part in a different readathon, or if you are just mood reading for May, tell me what you are reading for the first book. I would love to hear from you all, and if you made it all the way to the end, please leave a fire emoji. Thanks guys, bye.